Hello everybody, Merker here. I just wanted to do a very quick video to give you some of our newer players a bit of a demonstration about how to effectively use directional scanning in order to find ships, etc. throughout the solar system. And this is something that can be quite confusing, especially for newer players, because D-scan is really not that intuitive, and it's a little bit tricky unless someone shows you. So we're gonna go through it. So what I've done is I've hopped into a shuttle and I've warped to a random celestial object, and I've ejected from that shuttle and I've named it Steve so that it should be fairly easy to see in D-scan. And what we're going to do is we're going to try and find it using the directional scanner, and as we go you'll see hopefully how you can use it in order to locate, for example, enemy ships that you're hunting and things like that. So we'll open up the D-scan window, and aside from that, the other thing that you want to do is you want to push F11 to open up this lovely window down here, and you can see you can ignore these other ones and just look down in the bottom right hand corner. And the reason that that window is important is because it gives you a demonstration of how D-scan works. So if you look as I click and drag around, you can see that thing in the bottom right hand corner moving. And what that is the field of view. And the reason I'm showing you this is because you're not really ever going to use the F11 window when you're actually using D-scan, but the reason I'm showing you is to give you a demonstration that it's not based on the direction that your ship is pointing, because that's a mistake that a lot of people make when they start using D-scan, is they think that it scans the area in front of your ship, and in fact that's not correct. What it does is it scans the area that your camera is pointed to. So the field of view rotates as you click and drag around so that you don't need to orient your ship towards objects in order to scan them. So for example, if I were to click over here, this asteroid belt, I'm just going to narrow the D-scan angle to 15 degrees and scan it. You can see there's an Amar and a Caldari control tower around this planet. So this planet probably has several moons. If you were to warp to those moons, you would see one Amar control tower and one Caldari control tower around those moons. So that's all fine and good, but how do you actually use this to find something that you want? So what we're going to do first is set it to 360 degrees. And what you can see down here in the bottom right hand corner is this green area, just ignoring the white, which is the field of view of the camera. This green area is everything that's being scanned down by D-scan. So what it's doing currently at 360 degrees is scanning everything in a sphere around your ship of 14.3 AU. So everything within that distance is going to be picked up by D-scan. If we shrink that to 180 degrees, what you can see is that everything in front of your field of view is now being scanned. And if I rotate this around, everything in the opposite direction is being scanned, so it's only looking at half a sphere now rather than 360 degrees around you. And the way that you'd use this to find an object is to start at 360 degrees, find the object that you're interested in, that should be within 14.3 AU of you, and then narrow the angle down until you find what warpable object it's at. So we're going to start at 360, and you can see if I scroll through this list, we can find the Minmatar shuttle here named Steve. That's the ship that I ejected from earlier at a random celestial. So if I shrink this down to 180, you can see that it's still here, and that means that it's not in this direction behind me, but rather at a celestial that's at 180 degrees in front of me. So it could be to the right, it could be to the left, it could be straight ahead. So shrinking this down to 90 degrees, you can see if you look in the bottom right hand corner, this is now equivalent to the field of view roughly. So at 90 degrees, you're no longer scanning to the left or the right, you're scanning 90 degrees in sort of like a quarter or an eighth of a sphere in front of you. So what you want to do is you want to keep reducing this until you get it down to the point where you can find out which warpable object the object of interest, in this case the shuttle, is at, and then you warp to that. So once you get it down to about 60 degrees, rather than continuing to shrink it down to 30 and then 15 and then 5, what I usually do is I start clicking. And what you want to make sure of is that you have your camera set to center tracking, so that when you click an object, your camera automatically aligns to it. So if I click down here on this customs office, you can see the camera centers on that. And then what you can do is you can shrink this down to 5 or 15 degrees and you can find, the objects that are at that warpable. So as before, like if I click on this asteroid belt, you can see that there are 4 wrecks there. So if I warp to that belt within 100 kilometers, you should see that there are 4 wrecks at that belt. And there they are, you can see them here on field. So just a little bit of confirmation there that it works. I'm going to warp back to the station. And then we're going to continue looking for that shuttle. So before we had it down to about 60 degrees here, and then if I click on this customs office down here, and we'll shrink that down to 15%, you can see that it's there. So we'll go ahead and we'll warp to that customs office. And there you can see it is. The Minmatar shuttle named Steve is now sitting here on grid with us. So I hope that's given you a fairly good description of how to use Dscan. Of course, if you have any questions, feel free to send me a message, post in the comments here, and I will respond.